Hello and welcome. Another edition of our Proline Tuesday discussion, where I basically take some time, and I've wanted to get more guests on rather than listen to me ramble. And I know that the topic at hand, on everybody's mind, college athletes that are going through possible portal, obviously high school athletes and their families, learning all the nuances now of December 1st and that how that can create some havoc with regard to the portal. My guest tonight, long time, what is it, over 30 years now, Andy, or
At least
approaching 30
25.
years?
At least 25.
Right, right. I knew it's somewhere in there, but
Yeah.
Andy Partin, he's head of Dirtbags baseball. That's been a staple in North Carolina for a very long time. When my boys were little and they went through the whole tournament down in Cobb, we always had games versus Dirtbags. First and foremost, Andy, thank you. I really appreciate. I know it's busy time for you, but I appreciate you taking your time.
Yeah, super excited to be here, man. Try to share some cool stuff and maybe help some of your audience.
You know, last week we had, Rob Bruno on NorCal. He's a Northern Cal, West Coast guy. And I know you have the East Coast pretty much down packed, and you've been around this world of youth and travel athletics and college recruiting, but there's a different dynamic to it this time of year around. You're going through this now as a dad. So I'd love to kind of get your thoughts from August 1st on and kind of share a little bit about what's that been like for you as a parent and not just as a coach.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't know if I can. I'm going to kind of blend them, like coach, parent together. But like we were talking before we got on, I thought this year was definitely a little stressful. I've been doing this a long time, and but never as a dad. And
Right.
I thought this summer was tough. The parents definitely seemed more on edge, and obviously that starts to rub off on the kids. And when kids are feeling some unwanted pressure, whether you want it or not, I mean, it's going to happen. Um, once those kids, like I'm talking about the 2027s this
Right.
year, it's going to happen. So the 2028s coming into the summer, whether you want it or not, you're gonna have some of that pressure. And conversations in the car or conversations at home, you start mixing in a lot more of like, well, do you think we need to go to this showcase? Do you think we need to go to this camp? Because you're just getting bombarded with emails and text messages, and they're all automated, and you're just trying to like weed through all the stuff. And
Right.
so all of that stuff starts to kind of creep in these kids' heads, and they're not used to it. These are teenagers. Um, and so you start talking about, well, we got to go to this event, we got to go there, and then did you send this coach an email? Did you send this guy a direct message? And so all of that stuff, I think it just started it starts to add up, and I think it kind of it shows on the field. Some guys I think who could have certainly had better performances on the field when it mattered, like at certain events, kids kind of underperformed. And I think a lot of that has to do with the pressure, and I don't want to blame mom and dad. I'm a mom and dad too. Oh, I'm not a mom, I'm a dad, but I got a mom over here, she's in the house too. So, but I
Right.
think we just put that on these kids, and that's unfair to them. So, um, I, you know, we're just it's just a weird spot for college recruiting. And I feel sorry for the college coaches too. I'm not knocking those guys at all. I think they've got a tough job right now. But kind of, as you're seeing online, we had this big wave of 2027s committed, and now it's really died down. And so now you've got a nice group of super talented 2027s, who are uncommitted. And they've got questions, like, well, what do I do now? That's the big question. And so you try to counsel these kids, and you try to counsel parents, and hey man, I can contact these schools again for you. It's like, man, they've already seen you play 10 times, and they're, but I can contact coaches for a kid at this point. But what are those coaches going to say? They're all going to say the same thing. Well, we like him. We're going to go watch him in the spring. I mean, I could show you 100 text messages that roundabout say the same thing, from different schools about kids. But those coaches are in a tough spot. They've got to be picky, and they can't just throw the net out, like they could, 5, 10 years ago and bring in 20, 25 kids. They've got to be super picky. And early this spring, trying to prepare, obviously my own house, but my own team and our program, trying to prepare these 2027s for what I thought was going to be the most difficult of the recruiting classes so far, right? This
Right.
was kind of the guinea pig class. And so I talked to a ton of different colleges at different levels and just trying to figure out, like, what should these kids be doing? How should these kids be communicating with you? And it was fascinating, I would also ask, how many 2027 high school kids do you plan on bringing in? Well, I heard as many as 10 or 11, and then I heard as few as three.
Right.
three
Right.
ki- three high
I mean,
school
think
kids. Wow.
about, and we know that it used to be like 15 to 18 high
Yeah.
school kids.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And I think when you're out watching these games and you're looking at now, we all kind of know the same college coaches. This is not anything other than they have been given a set of rules, a new playbook, so to speak. They have to abide by it, whether they like it or not. It's just, hey, man, the big boy in the office at the NCAA is, these are the rules. This is what we have to do. But now, travel ball, or the high school world, has become so, kind of ingrained with 8th grade, 9th grade recruiting, and you're making decisions in your sophomore and your junior year. Well, now we're kind of going back to even when I was a kid, when now it's like, we'll get back to you at the end of your junior year, going into your senior fall. So if you're a parent now of a 2028 or even a 2029, what are you giving them for advice as you're seeing the 27s and living it as a dad? Hey, man, you may want to begin to slow your roll and think about doing this. What are you telling them
So our
to
whole
prepare?
organization, when we talk about the different classes, and we try to, kind of reevaluate at the end of the season and kind of going into the next season, like, how do we need to adapt, to, this whole new set of rules that everyone's following. I mean, if you're a 2029 at this point, it's just so irrelevant. You're just so irrelevant.
Right,
Like, those college coaches really, that they're not going to pay any attention to you. So
right,
really, you need to just double down on getting better. I mean, the whole development side of it, and just go play as competitive, as high a level baseball as you can play. That's it. You don't need to worry about college baseball and what camps and what showcases you need to go to. It doesn't matter. Unless you're just trying to, like, get internet famous or whatever. But the college coaches are not paying attention to 2029s. They're not even paying attention to 2028s right now. I mean, now they will. So we'll get to that. Now, I just talked to a 2028 dad before I got on here with you, and we were talking, and his kid's good. So everyone's paths is going to be a little bit different depending on the talent level. The speed is a little bit different. Now, this kid's pretty talented, but what we talked about was, his main question was kind of, what's the best bang for the buck? Like,
right,
what should we plan for this summer? And I mean, just looking back, I mean, think the things that were so good for us. Now, the Dirtbags, we do a big showcase to kick off the season. We'll have somewhere between 40 and 50 colleges at that.
right.
So,
Yep.
personal. So for my family, that was very beneficial for my kid. Okay, he got identified from the coach at High Point at that. Now, he didn't get recruited necessarily from that, but he got identified from that. That
Right,
was the first time that they really noticed him, right? And then later on, second week of September is when they saw him and then made him an offer, and then now he's committed there. Now, so we do a big showcase there. And then, I mean, USA Nationals was huge. That was a big
right.
event for the 2027s this summer. I saw tons of schools at that. Okay. And then we didn't really see anybody until we went to the WWBA, right? The 16 and under in Atlanta.
Right. Right.
Tons of coaches. Right now, you can't be on some terrible team and expect to see a bunch of coaches. But if you play for an established program team, like you're going to get that's a great place to get exposure. And then from there, I mean, you've got the PBR futures game. That's it. I mean,
That's it.
from an exposure
Right.
standpoint, that's what you need. Like we do the big
Right.
showcase. You've got USA. Now that's hard to get into. I mean, you've only got one
Right.
team per organization, and typically it's about 16 teams from across the country. So
Right.
that's a really hard one to get to. But then the WWBA, and then hopefully you can get a chance to go to that PBR futures game. I'm not getting no, there's no kickbacks for me from PBR on that,
Right.
but it is a good event. So that's an event that can really change the the course for a lot of kids.
Scooter just sent me a text. He said the check's in the mail
Yeah,
for
nice,
PBR.
nice.
Well,
No.
I would like for you to discuss when you're talking with a 28 or 29,
Mhm.
because essentially the 26s, the high school seniors, they're not going to play travel ball. They're going to probably go into a college summer league, or they're going to play at some older level, and they're not going to be part of the Dirtbag as far as with your 27s. But your 27s, they play the 17U, and then your 28s are in the 16U. What are you telling those parents from a strength, from a skill set? What do they need to be really focused in on during these off months to really prepare for next summer?
Well, it's the whole bigger, faster, stronger. I used to talk about this until I was blue in the face, and then I just kind of stopped talking about it. But I need to talk about it more with our folks for sure. It is just the physicality side of it. I mean, now college baseball is just getting older and older and older, right? And so it's so hard, for these kids. I mean, now my kid he's got some advantages, right? So he's had this place, so we've got a weight room and things like that. But he's still not, you know, man strength like he's 6'5", 230, right? I mean, he just picked up 600
Ooh.
pounds. Well, he just picked up 600 pounds, a couple days ago. So he's a strong dude, but he's not strong like a 21-year-old,
Right.
who's his size. So that stuff takes time, right? And you can't, you know, give people, that extra time. Some people need a little bit longer to develop. But man, you have got to get bigger and stronger, and then speed will come with that. Typically, most guys they're lacking in skill is pretty much I don't I don't want to say skill's the same, but skill is a lot more even than you think across the board. But it's the guys with similar skill, but then there's one guy that's just way stronger, right? And so he just kicks that other guy's ass, right? And so the bigger, stronger kids typically win the game. I don't really care what sport you're playing. So you've got to get stronger. And I think everyone is looking for like the plan. It's not the plan, that it's just consistency, right? You got to get in there, and you can't look at the weights. They're right over there. I can look at them, but if I pick them up, then I get
Right.
stronger. So that's
Right.
what I tell people. But if you just get in there and just do the basic stuff, and when I talk to kids who go to college, the kids who play for us that I'm close with, and what we're talking about, what was the biggest adjustment? Like when you got there, all of them across the board, it's the strength. That
Right.
side of it, they're not ready. So I mean, like you have the information, it's so accessible online or with whoever. People just give you this information for free. Take it and use it. Why would you not be prepared and just go ahead and get better now in the weight room so you're prepared for when you get to school, you're ready to go in there and contribute.
Well, I would love for you to. So, what I try to get parents to understand is what used to be, where the 14U, the 15U, the 16U, that 8th through 10th grade, where everybody was excited of, rolling into Georgia, rolling into a various tournament. But now it really takes patience, and for parents to kind of roll the expectation level down a little bit, even though there's dreams. And you and I both know that plays a big part, when the kids, get off the little diamond and they're going into big time. Their dreams of playing for North Carolina, NC State, Wake, etc. But the biggest thing is you have to put the work in when you're in that 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade window. So by the time there's actually a physical maturation occurring internally as that junior, senior, and obviously going into your freshman year in college, your skill set will benefit from your familiarity with the weight room and the routine and the discipline. How do you instill that in the younger athletes and get the parents to understand, we don't need to worry about exposure. We don't need to, travel all over the world. We need to get our work in every day, but it's really about our bodies and, our skill set development.
I wish I knew. If I had like the exact thing to say to those parents, I think we got to get the kids to understand that lifting weights and getting stronger is just as important as like hitting in a cage, right? And so they
Amen.
think like,
Right.
well, I want to get better. Well, I need to go hit, or I need to go throw, or it's typically hit. Nobody takes ground balls or anything like that anymore, right? Because you can't do that, with a, an instructor or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to tell people, but if you're better in the weight room, you don't have to be as good here, right?
Right.
So everybody wants to hit the ball harder. Everybody wants to swing faster and swing design and all that good stuff. And we can get all these adjectives and we can talk about all this fancy stuff, man. But a guy, if you can pick up 500 pounds, I bet you're going to swing faster, right? Like,
Right.
because you're just going to be stronger. Um, I thought it was when the rule changed, I thought it was kind of a breath of fresh air. I thought our parents of the kids that I coached that were 27s, when I told them 2 years ago that this new rule was in place, I thought they all kind of, oh, good. I mean, think about
Right.
it. I mean, I don't know, like when your kids were coming through, I mean, like my kid, when he was 15, 14 years old, now he might have been good enough to be recruited, but man, he can't carry on a conversation, with adults. So I couldn't
Right.
imagine him talking to Scott Forbes on the phone, and talking about whatever. I mean, a 14, 15-year-old kid trying to talk to a 50-year-old about college
Right.
baseball. My kid's just worried about like, what kind of Mexican food or pizza are we eating tonight? So I try to make life decisions at that age. I like the rule. I know this is not wasn't really something you asked, but I like the rule change. I think it is good, kind of like what you were talking about earlier. It's kind of like back in the day. I remember when I first started doing this, when we had fall teams, 2004, 2005, we couldn't hardly play a game in the fall because everyone was taking official visits. Nobody had
Right.
committed yet. And then it just did
Right.
this huge shift, of like, it was Jim Toman. Jim Toman changed the whole game. When he was at South Carolina, that's when all those kids started committing as freshmen. I mean, I think he was
Right.
just ahead of his time, when it came to the recruiting side. And I would listen to him. I'd be at games and I would listen to him on the phone, talk to kids. I mean, it was amazing. But so anyway, I think now it definitely benefits the kid. Look, and if you're a good player today, I mean you're controlling the whole recruiting game. If you're a good player, this is funny. I had a kid this summer who he had kind of like the dream summer, super talented kid, and he got recruited by everybody. He's the guy like the parents want because he's having such a great time with this whole recruiting process and everywhere he went this summer he just was amazing. And so he got recruited by everybody in the country. I'm talking about everybody. And I started to get phone calls. And Walter, this is my ADD taking over, man. Like I'll start talking about one thing, and I'm going to talk about like how do I grill a ribeye steak here in a minute. So pull me back in when I get way off. But this guy started talking. I'm sorry, I had college coaches in like Power Four schools are calling me like, "Hey, I can't get a hold of this kid. Like, what's going on?" I talked to the kid, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's going on? This guy's calling. You talking to you?" It was some names that you had mentioned before we got
Yeah.
on the air.
Yep.
Like some of these
Yep.
big time schools are calling him, and he's not answering. He said, "Coach, man, I got. I'll be honest with you, man. Like, I've got 5 official visits lined up." He's like, I've got full rides from all of them, and I'm getting paid by all these schools. He's like, I don't want to talk to any more college coaches. I'm like, man, that's awesome, dude. Like, so that was my only guy
That
like that.
that
But
is the new reality, though. The
yeah,
the higher level, what I call thoroughbreds, they're
yep,
all being sought after. But it used to be, you could call in the whole industry. Let's say from 2008 ish, 9 ish, the whole industry was coaches would kind of corral 15 to 20 guys, and they'd have them in every class from the sophomore, junior, and obviously the seniors into November. But now it's kind of very, very selective. It's position specific, starts on the bump, works to the big boy bats. And I try to tell parents, well, my son's a good hitter. Okay, there's good hitters at the low, 16 through 18, and then there's college hitters. I have a pitcher that's in college. He's like, Coach, none of these guys in the fall swing at my changeup, or they swing at my my cutter or my slider. Yeah, they recognize spin, they see spin. And so you start to talk to parents about real skill. And that's why the 20 to 24-year-old, it's a different level. There's a maturity, there's a peace of mind, there's a purpose. And so if you're talking to when I say younger parents, the parents of the 28s, let's say,
hmm
what's some tips that you might want to throw out there and say, hey, this is a reality. And why don't we focus on these things and best prepare, to go through that process maybe in a year?
So before we get that, just one thing. I like to get recruited, like you're talking about these thoroughbreds. You've got to have like some to get recruited early. Like the guys, the
Plus
2028s
rules.
coming up, these guys
Right.
who get recruited early and get all these offers and get offered money or whatever over the phone. You got to have some outlier type stuff, man. You got to do stuff that the other guys can't do.
Yeah, but talk about that though. Like parents don't understand. What
R-
give them the outliers for the pitchers and the hitters.
yeah, man. Well, you're gonna have to do it in front of them. Just because you go to a PBR workout, and you throw 91 or whatever, like nobody cares. So you can use that stuff to get identified or whatever. But when you go out there and you're throwing 94 miles an hour, man, that's okay. You can't ignore that, right? So
Right.
if you're just like, there's so many kids out there that are just average across the board, right? Runs pretty good. He's a good hitter. Doesn't can't hit the ball out of the park yet, but he's a good hitter. He doesn't have a great arm, but he's got a good arm. Like that guy's not getting recruited. Okay,
Right.
now you've got to do
And
something really good. Like
right.
if you're 3-8 down the line, like somebody's going to notice that. Okay, you're hitting the ball hard and you're running some 3-8, some 3-9s down the line. Like okay, that guy can run. Or if you better be a magician, like in the infield. Like say you can really glove it, or man, you've got a really big arm on the mound, or something exceptional, like you just got this breaking ball, that everybody swings and misses at. Something you got to do something like that, right? Or you hit 2 or 3 home runs, at the WWBA in the summer. Well, I mean, how do you can't deny that? Like the guy, he hit the ball out 3 times. Like it's just so you've got like something that they want, right? But yeah, you got to have some outlier type stuff. And I think, and that goes back to what we're talking about with the development side. I mean, like, don't skip the development piece, right? People get so hyper focused on, like what games we've got coming up, or like we got
Right.
to get this type of exposure or whatever.
Exposure. Right.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like, what are you exposing? If you're not good, don't go to anything. Like, you need to like hunker down, hide, and get as good as you can get. Right?
Okay. Now I want to talk because you just said the word that I always use. Go work in silence. Go hide somewhere and then
Yeah,
reemerge as the best version of yourself when you're a senior in high school. You try to tell parents that and they go, what about all the tournaments? They can't help you right now. How do
yeah.
you tell parents that when you're
So,
trying to
I mean, you can't quit playing. Like you can't just go and hit in the cage and lift weights. You've got to go play. I mean, that is development. That's the games is the greatest teacher, right? So you got to go play. Um, and you know, you need to play high level competition. I think that stuff, that's for these younger, these 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. You know, it, it sucks that we got to go to Florida or Georgia or Texas or wherever. We got to go chase competition. But when you get to a level like some of our teams are, I mean, who you gonna play? You know, you can't go play the regular local team from Raleigh. Well, I mean, that's no good for anybody, you know. So you got to chase the competition at that age for sure. You got to have some good coaches, you know, guys who are gonna take care of you, who can teach baseball, you know, teach you how to run the bases and things like that. And a lot of the teams, like at our age, you know, they're not having team practice. And I thought it was hilarious. We just had a lady email in, and her kid's not returning because we don't have team practice. I'm like, man, you know, that's not what we do. And we never, you know, it's not like we're not selling team practice. That's not what we do.
Right.
So, but if you're relying on team practice for your kid to get better individually, man, you're in trouble. I mean,
Now,
you've,
talk
you
about that. You need to take a proactive, when I say you, families need to understand, athletes need to take a proactive approach to like, you can't wait for a lesson. You can't wait for a practice. You can't put the onus on a coach. Hey, man, go take some balls off the wall. Go swing the bat. Go swing a hit stick and hit acorns or golf balls or whatever. But talk about the need for self-development, self-improvement, playing competitive catch in the backyard, things like that. That's really where I think the magic has been lost. We're, in some cases, I feel athletes are so reliant on validation, like sitting in a cage. Man, that looked good. Okay, man, that looked good. Go hit when nobody's watching. Go
yeah.
hit when nobody has any white noise, I call it. Can you talk a little bit
So
about,
yeah, so
like, your
before
son
my
probably goes to the cage and goes hits and just, he knows whether he hit a ball well or not.
yeah. So before my kid could drive, we would now he can drive. So like he does a lot of the stuff either with a teammate or whatever. But before he could drive, that's when I could kind of control what he was doing, and we would write out a
Right,
plan each week. I would write out a plan. I would go 7 to 10 days, and I would give it to him. Like, hey, here it is. I would text it to him. All right, Monday we're gonna, you need to throw. Hey man, well, I've got basketball practice where what we would do after school. I would pick him up. I would bring his glove. Hey man, we got 15 minutes. We're going to go over this
right,
field. I'm talking about not a baseball field. There's a field near my house, and we would throw, right? And
right,
then we would stretch it out, and then he would long toss. But as parents, you have to be proactive in this process too, because if I just left it up to my kid, I mean, he would do some stuff, but like, I think the parents, you need to step in, and not every parent is like us, right? They're not. I'm crazy,
right.
like I'll do
I'm
whatever.
cuckoo. Trust me. I lived it. Right. I
Yeah,
lived
right,
it.
right. So you've been there. I'm doing it. So we're gonna be proactive, but like you've got to find that 15 minutes, man. I mean, like, what were we gonna do? Well, let's just go throw. And I think, and so you can get stuff. I mean, my wife just told me I'm an idiot. I just put an arm care room. I made a little nook in our upstairs, an arm care room. Well, I got the attachments for, and this is any parent can do this. Find your couple of
Right.
studs. I got the crossover symmetry. We've
Yep.
got the little
Crossover symmetry. Yeah.
adjustable thing with some Jaeger bands on there. We've got some light dumbbell, whatever. So we've got, he's got a program, and so now he can do some stuff. Is that stuff as important as maybe box squatting, some heavy weight? I don't know, but that we can provide him that, and that stuff's not expensive. But I'm not sure parents are doing that. And you don't have to be
Right.
nuts to do that, but that's the like those little developmental things I think can really help parents. But the parents have got to get involved. I think we just go, well, we'll just leave it up to him and his coach. I mean, no. I mean, that's you've got to get involved.
Yeah, I can admit I was a Kool-Aid drinker. I was the cuckoo dad. I had the crossover symmetry bands. I
Yeah.
had them in the doorway. I had the whole thing set up. I had a mattress downstairs. We lived in New England, so we're throwing balls into the mattress in the winter. Yeah, I was a Kool-Aid drinker.
I mean, some people
Last
collect
question, Andy.
watches and stuff, and some people collect whatever. Like I collect hit training bats. I mean, I've got about 20
Yeah,
different bats over there. It's just like, hey,
I mean, I have
whatever
so
works.
many. I always used to tell parents these bats don't run out of hits. Like a lot of bats still have hits in them, and you can use them as BP
Yeah,
bats. I mean, I get a lot of kids that, when I'm doing stuff with them, I'll always say, don't worry about that $500 bat. Don't have any hits in it yet, but this sure has a lot of hits. And it's not the Ted Williams line. It's not the Arrow. It's the Indian. Like you can buy all the greatest equipment in the world, but if you don't know how to use it properly, it's not
right.
going to work like you think it's going to work. They're
Exactly.
not magic. But my last question for you is, and I really want to, you and I talk to coaches. It's just part of who we are. It's part of what we do. It's just part of the whole world that we've kind of grown into over the last 30 years. But talk a little bit about, you sense their frustration. And if you could kind of get parents to understand the parity of baseball now more than ever. And I get the Power Four money, but look at Murray State, look at Coastal, look
Mm.
at Wright State, look at some of these schools. Any given year, you could go in the CAA or the Sun Belt or any of those conferences. They're good programs, but now talent is spreading out. Talent is really moving all over at all levels. Can you tell parents now more than ever, college baseball, regardless of the division, you may want to go to Division One, you may want to go to school locally, but you have to find a place where there's a fit, a need, and an opportunity. Can you just share that with parents?
Yeah, yeah.
How you approach that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think parents are and kids are waiting for those schools to recruit them. They need to go recruit the schools. Okay. And I think that
Boom.
that's a
Yep.
mistake that a lot of people make. But um it- what was the actual question that you wanted? What
Just
was
how
it?
do you prepare, like, just getting parents to understand, hey man, if this school like South Carolina Aiken, if they
Yeah,
call, hey man, Keith, that's a good baseball guy. It might not be South Carolina, but that's a good
right.
program.
Yeah, you've got to pay attention to the people who are interested in you. Okay. And we
Right.
found that out, at our house. It's like, well, we like this school, and that school. Okay. But like this school and this school and this school, those are people that have really expressed interest. So I think you need to pay attention there. Um, but definitely be more proactive in and how you're reaching out to those schools. Those coaches, they want to know that you're interested in them, right? So they're humans, and there's different ways to do that. However you're going to do it, through social media or email or whatever, or your references. But yeah, get out there and get proactive. Don't just sit back and wait. And if that big school's not calling, that's probably a good sign, right? That, like, hey, they're not interested, right? Especially if they've seen you. But there's so many ways to get in front of schools that don't cost any money. That you don't have to go to this thing or that thing over here. There's so many ways to get in front of so many schools, because we have these things, these magic things in our pockets called cell phones. And if mom and dad, there it is. There, I couldn't pick it up because I'm using it. But look, if you'll just go, how much time we got? Do I need to hurry up?
No.
Okay. So
You're,
if so your kid's Twitter or your kid's X or whatever, that is their highlight reel. That's their highlight reel. Okay. So every kid who aspires to play college baseball needs a Twitter account. Okay. A lot of coaches on Twitter. So I'm not saying go look at my kid's Twitter account to see watch him do stuff, but go on there and look at how his bio is set up. Okay, go in there and then look at the video, the quality of the video that I took from the spring season. Okay, so if you scroll down, you have to scroll down because when he committed to High Point, he's got a few of those congratulatory things. But if you look at the quality of the video, I'm talking, you got to get through the net, guys. You got to put your camera
bingo.
through the net. You got to zoom
Right.
in so those coaches can
Right.
see your kid. People will send me video all the time. I get links all the time. Hey, look at my son. And it's somebody sitting on the top. They're sitting on top of the hill. through the grandstand and then like through the fence. You can't even see. So how is a coach
Right.
supposed to identify, certainly evaluate your kid if the video is not good? Um, I think I touched on it early when I was talking to a bunch of coaches this spring. Like, what's the best way for these kids to communicate with you to let them know to let you know that they're interested in you? And a lot of the same answers, but there is no one right answer. I mean, I think it needs to be kind of that omni approach of you've got to have a good reference, right? So you need to have a good high school coach or go ahead.
Talk
You did.
about that.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. So you
Right.
need to
I
have,
want you to explain that.
yeah, your high
Yeah,
school
that's what I
coach,
want you to
or
explain.
yeah, or your travel coach, those guys, especially if it's somebody that those college coaches trust, right? So they're, you got four college coaches, they can't be everywhere, right? So they're going to have to rely on people like us who understand what level kids can play at, right? So if I tell a coach like, hey, I think this guy can help you and he's interested in you, well, they're going to pay attention to that because they know. Now, I may be wrong, but they know that like I've got a lot of experience, whatever, and I've got a relationship with those guys. So you need that reference, okay? And then you're gonna old school email. As silly as that sounds, the old school email. Now I asked college coaches like, you know, the best way, and some of them were saying, I can't even get through my email. I get so many, but some of them were like, hey, that's all I use. So you got, put the email together. I mean, we can go over that another time. That's a lot of information there, but put the email together and then tag or link those videos from your ex. The
Right.
huge mistake that kids will make, they'll post their video on X and then they'll tag like 10 colleges. Well, what if I'm a college and you didn't tag me and I'm not on there? Does that mean you don't like me? Right. So please, guys, use a little bit of common sense. Don't tag the coaches. If anything, put the video out, right? Very little caption. You don't need to say, and if you don't have velocity on the video, don't put it up there. Nobody believes what you're
Right.
saying. Don't say I was
Right.
86, 88. When nobody cares because like unless you
They can
got
see
proof,
it. You can see
right?
it.
Unless they can
Right.
see it, but they can see how your arm works and the reaction to hit and all that stuff. But take that video and put it in your email. Right? Hey, coach, just want to let you know this is what we did with my kid. Hey, coach, just letting you know, man, I uploaded some new video of me hitting or pitching or whatever. Here's the link. And you can DM those guys directly, right? So on your X or your Twitter, follow those coaches, not the baseball program account, right? Not the team account.
Right.
Follow the coaches. Hey, they'll probably follow you back. And then you can tell your buddies that you got, so and so and so and so are following you on Twitter, which is cool, But take that video and then you can DM those guys as well. So um yeah, I think between having a really good reference and then obviously through social media DMing, email, and then they're gonna go out and watch you play, right? So in that email, attach your schedules and things like that, the spring or the summer, and invite those guys to come watch you play. And then certainly in your emails or your messages, you know, tell them who your references are. If you play for, the Dirtbags, our kids are going to say, hey, contact Trey Daly or Andy Partin, whatever. So, make sure you're playing for a good high school coach who wants to help you, or a good summer, fall coach, who's got the, kind of those relationships as well. So I know it was long winded,
Well,
but
no, I mean, parents need to hear this type of information because it's from someone that's been in the mix, so to speak, with the college programs. You've seen the high, and now we're coming into this different pattern. It's no difference than how a jet stream works. One day it's going from the south to the north, the next day it's going north to the west. I mean, it is what it is. But in college baseball now is different. There are changes, and parents need to understand the difference between exposed. Also, be proactive. I always tell parents, don't be exposed and don't be reactive. Be proactive
yeah,
and be working in silence. I think the landscape now wants younger athletes spend time in their body, speed, size, strength, skill. And then when you're a junior going into your senior year, that's when the schools are going to get active with you. But congratulations, Andy, on your son. High Point is a tremendous school. It's a beautiful campus.
Yeah, he's so
And
happy. Yeah, he's
congratulations.
happy. So
6'5", 230.
the big
My
dude,
God, man.
and
What's
he's
that guy going
ugly.
to look
He's
like
ugly
when he's
too.
21?
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
tell
Yeah,
him
who knows?
when he gets to be a man strength and he gets 5 years of eligibility, I mean, that all is coming down the road. That's a story for another day. But if you haven't played against the Dirtbags, or you haven't been to a tournament, or you find yourself in a tournament, make sure you go up and say hi to Andy. I mean, they're in a lot of tournaments down through, the Carolinas and into Georgia. And I kind of have a sneaky suspicion Travel Ball's about to make some changes with regard to levels and organizations trying to play against each other at all their teams. And obviously the Dirtbags are one of the elite teams in the country. But Andy, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to share such valuable insight with parents
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
athletes.
absolutely. Happy to be here.
Happy Thanksgiving, Captain.